Hi everyone, we're going to look at music genres. How are they similar? And how are they different? Let's start with one of my favourite genres, and that is opera. One of the things most associated with opera is a classical singing style, and that involves stretching vowels, and that can make it easier for you to sing passages, and it also helps the phrases flowing better. But sometimes people take it to extremes, to the point where when people are singing they might have a very beautiful voice, but it's virtually impossible to work out what the words are. So sometimes one of the negative aspects of opera singing is that you can lose the pronunciation and lose diction. A very important aspect of singing opera is that we never use amplification, and never use electrified instruments. It's very important part of it that we never use microphones. And all opera singers are trained to be able to sing unamplified across a concert hall. Most operas are sung in the original languages, but there are some opera companies such as English National Opera that they specialise in creating English translations of original work. You might also find in opera houses, not everyone is thought of as equal. There is certainly a hierarchy in a typical opera house, with the people at the top being like the opera soloists and the opera director, and everyone just kind of comes down from there. There's certainly a hierarchy to the way things are done. And when people are singing arias, there is opportunity for them to create their own little parts that are quite free, and they can be improvised. They have some arias where like famous singers have created their own little runs, and people will use them and decide which one that they like, and maybe pick one that maybe, say for instance, Maria Callas sang or something like that. But there's also an element of freedom in that you can make up your own if you want. Let's have a wee look at gospel music. Surprisingly, there's a lot of similarities with opera singing. Gospel music has a lot of similarities with opera, and that they both work on the technique of classical singing by stretching the vowels, and so the flow of the phrases can be a lot easier. But there's also the kind of thing that differs it from opera a bit, in that gospel is an American tradition music genre. So as you're singing gospel, you want to try and sound a bit like American. And the way that I describe it to my pupils is, don't pronounce your D's or your T's. That can work quite effectively. Similar to opera, most of the time we don't use any amplification. Though sometimes you will see that, say for Sunday worship, you might have soloists, especially solo singers, maybe using microphones. There is a kind of hierarchy with the voices and the instruments, including voice, and that the soloists are thought of as kind of up on a pedestal a little bit, but not as much, not in anywhere as much of an extent as opera. And with gospel music, there are some elements of room for improvisation if people choose to do that. Let's have a look at folk music now. Folk music is very interesting that it's quite different from opera. The way that you sing it can sound very similar to speech, and the notes decay quicker, which just means that the notes aren't sustained. That's one of the reasons, or one of the biggest reasons, why it'll sound a bit more like speech when you sing. A lot of folk music, when I think of maybe the ones I'm most familiar with, like Scottish folk music, you have informal kind of meetups that they call sessions, and depending on what instruments or players that turn up, you might have it being acoustic, you might have it amplified, so everyone has a kind of equal chance or opportunity to get involved, whereas more formal performances would be amplified to make sure that you can hear the singers clearly. It also depends on the venue as well, like how big the venue is and stuff like that. It's an important element of folk music that you are said to adopt the language and the colloquialisms of whichever country the folk music is coming from. Whereas, and compare that to opera, sometimes people will do different translations and things like that. I think folk music is a bit more strict in that they want people to preserve the original parts of the songs. And something that I touched on earlier, instruments are a lot more egalitarian, especially in informal sessions where people all take turns to do a solo or something like that. But within that, it's all based on tradition, so there's maybe a little bit less area for improvisation. Let's have a look at jazz now. There are a lot of similarities with jazz and folk music in that the singers, their singing style is a bit more like speech, and there's a decay of notes again. But interestingly, with jazz and gospel are both an American tradition music genre, so they both have you can adopt Americanisms, I would guess, when you're singing both gospel and jazz. So that's why I put up the thing, no D's and T's again. I find that's a simpler way to describe how you would do it. Most of the time when the people are performing, especially if there are singers there, it will be amplified to a small extent. In that if there's a piano, it might be an electric piano, or so they might have an amp for that. They might also have a microphone if it's an upright piano. They might have a microphone pointed into the strings to pick up the piano more. It's a lot more of a kind of egalitarian structure to jazz groups. A lot more to and fro between the instruments. All the instruments, including the voice, are thought of as equal to each other. They're not just if you think of a traditional hierarchy of a voice in, say, a piano, for instance, that the voice is like the solo instrument and the piano is the accompaniment to bolster the main show, which would be the voice. If it was a jazz version of that, voice and piano as a third instrument, say for instance a double bass, they would all be thought of as equal, and that they'll have an equal chance to do solos or to write music or something like that. Thanks everyone, I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. You can also send me a quick Skype. If you go to my website, there's a thing listed on there where you can book an appointment with me for a 10-minute Skype call. And my username is the Forte Music School. Thanks guys.